Welcome back to the Pylon Cam Fantasycast, episode 5. I am your commander-in-chief, Mike Forcella, and we are coming up on week 4 of the NFL season. And it's pretty much time that if you're 0-3, it's time to make some drastic changes. If you're 1-2, you got to really hammer home your picks on the waiver wire. And if you're 2-1 or 3-0, you could always get better. And you can always keep people from getting better by being smart on the waiver wire. So in this episode, we're going to talk about my favorite streamers for this week, my favorite waiver wire pickups for this week. And at the end, we're going to do a little bit of this and that on my favorite trade targets for this week. Now, you could say I'm an idiot, you could say I'm a genius, but we'll find out in the weeks to come. Without further ado, let's talk about the running backs for week 1. In case I forget, because I forget every episode, check us out on Instagram, Twitter, Spotify, or YouTube. Every podcast is on Spotify. Every post, we post a lot on Instagram at _pylon_cam. And follow us on Twitter at pylon_the. Trying to do a little bit better about posting about, keeping up with moves and everything. But for right now, it's a one-man show, so I'm doing the best I can. But let's talk about some running backs. Let's talk about players who are going to run the ball and catch the ball and get you points. First up, probably the hottest waiver wire pickup of the week, hands down, no questions asked. He's going to give you a lot of bada bing and a lot of bada boom. And that player is Chuba Hubbard for the Carolina Panthers. And why I say Chuba is the best waiver wire pickup of the week. If you were waiver wire priority pick number 1, I hope you grabbed him. He's filling the role. I mean, obviously he's not Christian McCaffrey. So let me say what I'm not saying, and that he's not Christian McCaffrey. Chuba will not be here to say he's not going to beat Christian McCaffrey out for the job. He's not going to keep Christian McCaffrey off the field. He's not going to be Matt Rule's new best friend. He's not going to be Sam Darnold's new best friend. But in the interim, this kid, after Christian McCaffrey went down, played 73% of snaps, had 47 attempts, and 22% of the target share. So, there is, in fantasy, all we care about is volume. We don't care about if this kid is actually good or not. We just know all of the touches are going to him. And that's what we need, because touches are points, especially for running backs, because if your running back is catching the ball, it's an automatic point. And that is such an added bonus for the position. So they're going to have more. This is why I love running backs so much. They have more plays of touching the ball, and then any pass they catch is an added bonus. So I think that the Panthers are hot this year. I think they're the real deal. I think, though, and I'm saying this because it's going to affect Chuba and his fantasy value. Well, actually, no, it won't. But it's something to look out for if you like the Panthers and if you have Panthers players on your fantasy rosters. I think the Panthers offense is either two things are about to happen. Either their passing attempts are going to increase by a decent margin. Excuse me. Or they might start to. It might say the same, but I'm saying this because the Panthers lost J.C. Horn to a fractured foot, and DJ Moore didn't get hurt, but was grabbing at his leg on that Thursday night game. Now he has 10 weeks rest going into the 10 days rest going into the Dallas Cowboys, but all of this to say that for Chuba, it's good. Because if their defense is playing bad and they're in shootouts and DJ Moore is hurt or gets hurt and Chris McCaffrey's gone, Chuba's volume is only going to grow. So he already has a large workload to pick up. He already has a lot of volume as it is. But if DJ Moore, we're seeing players all over the league, just a turf monster, hamstring injuries. Chris McCaffrey, hamstring injury. Darius Slayton, hamstring injury. Sterling Shepard, hamstring injury. Blake Martinez tore his ACL. All of these players are getting hurt because of turf. The whole Ravens team got hurt because of turf. TJ Watt hurt because of turf. There actually is, this is just a fun nugget of information if you didn't know, there is a pretty large movement by the players' union to completely abolish turf fields, because the amount of just impact that turf generates on your body is ridiculous, and it does cause a lot of injuries. That's why so many of these players that I just listed that got hurt. J.C. Horn, this is the most... I didn't know that this could actually happen. J.C. Horn fractured his foot in a non-contact injury on a turf field. I didn't know that turf could do that to your bones. I knew it obviously could cause muscle strains and etc., but I didn't know it could actually break a bone. So, anyway, Chuba's volume is great as it is, and it's going to get bigger. McCaffrey's not on IR, but I think he's minimum 2 weeks. So this will be the first week, and then the next week. So it'll be interesting to see how how Chuba pans out, because I liked him as a prospect coming out of college. He tallied in 2019 2,000 all-purpose yards and like 20 touchdowns, something ridiculous. I like him. He's pretty one-dimensional in terms of running. He really just has that one speed and one cut type of player. But I like him in this offense. I like his volume for fantasy. I think he's gonna have, and it'll be interesting to see how he does against the Cowboys, because we're slowly starting to realize the Cowboys have a fantastic defense. So Chuba will either put up buckets for you against the Cowboys, or it's going to be a complete shootout. And I think it probably will, now that there's so many injuries to the Carolina Panthers defense. But next player on this list is, let me get myself together. It is Sony Michel. Now, Darrell Henderson, this is a player who, if you need a running back or you need a flex option, this is going to be a serviceable player for, the next week. Because the point of this episode is waiver pickups and streamers. And if you're new to fantasy, if this is your first season, what a streamer is someone who's playing hot. So you just stream them for the week. You just keep, Teddy Bridgewater is starting to be viewed as a streamer because he had 2 great weeks and then he had a week without a touchdown against the Jets. So, but anyway, Sony Michel, Darrell Henderson is dealing with bruised ribs. I think he has no, it's not bruised ribs, it's a rib cartilage injury. So those are actually more, apparently, according to reports, those are more tricky to handle than actual fractured ribs. So with this, Darrell Henderson didn't practice at all leading up to week 3. He was out for the whole following Sunday's game, week 2 against the Colts. Didn't practice, didn't play week 3 this past Sunday, and he's still not playing. I didn't see any reports that he's attended practice this week. I was looking him up before I sat down to record this. But without Darrell Henderson, Sony Michel is seeing 73% of snaps, 20 attempts in the one game he was gone, and 4.3% targets. We're not looking for Sony Michel to catch passes. That's really not how the Rams' offense even operates at all with Darrell Henderson. Sure, he has some target volume, but it's really not substantial enough compared to these other guys. Compared to Chuba, who's at 17% or whatever I just said. So I think the snap split in terms of percentages, I think 6% out of the remaining, what is that? Quick math. 27% went to Jake Funk, who just came in as a blocker, and didn't really. I think he had 1 carry for 6 yards against the Bucs. So for all these reasons, I like Sony Michel. You don't expect he's kind of a touchdown or bust. He had what? I think he had 60 yards, 20 attempts for over 60 yards against the Bucs, which is pretty good because the Bucs have a great run defense. You're not going to run the Bucs, but this offense is fantastic. Sony Michel is going to have his opportunities. He had 20 attempts, which is great volume on run attempts alone. And I really do think that they'll probably use him on the goal line a little bit more in the meanwhile until Darrell Henderson's back. But I think that this is a player that you could go week to week with Darrell Henderson out. But on top of that, he might, like we saw it last year with Malcolm Brown, that it was a Darrell Henderson show, and then Malcolm Brown carved out a little slice of opportunity, a little slice of the opportunity pie, and he was relevant for the rest of the season. So this Darrell Henderson being hurt really could hurt him, because we've seen, in history, Sean McVay is not afraid to adjust, which is why he's a fantastic coach. That's neither here nor there. So why I like Sony is because he's getting the volume now, and he's producing with it. He's being efficient. We would like to see more pass attempts, but it's just not realistic for even Darrell Henderson when he's back, because it's not how the Rams offense operates. Last year with Jared Goff, they would run play-action passes literally every play because Jared Goff had a noodle for an arm. This year, they could just take a 3-step drop, and Sam Bradford, oh my God, Matt Stafford is just sending a nuke down the field off the rip. So I like Sony if you need a flex player. If you're in a deep league, Sony's a good option. If you're in a not so deep league, I think Sony's still a good option based off the offense he's in. I didn't do my due diligence to look at their schedule coming up. I know they play the Giants eventually. I think in 2 weeks. 3 weeks from now. So that's a favorable matchup for whoever's running the ball. And I think this week, I'll just look it up on my phone for 1 second because I'm curious. Schedule 2021. Okay, so they're playing. Oh, they play the Cardinals this week. So actually, Sony Michel has a super favorable matchups over the next 2 weeks, and here's why. They play the Cardinals, whose defense is getting better, but it's still trash. And they play the Seahawks, who are, I think the 26th ranked rushing defense in the entire NFL. That's why Alexander Madison just obliterated them. So Sony definitely has some favorable matchups this week if Darrell Henderson stays out. If you're a Darrell Henderson owner, I am praying you have Sony Michel. Because if you don't, you're kind of cucked. But, yeah, let's talk about the next player. Next player on this list, Peyton Barber. So, Peyton Barber went to Las Vegas. He went into Bed Bath & Beyond. And he found the little blue clicker in the back from Click and rewinded himself to his prime. Peyton Barber just ran all over the Miami Dolphins. I don't know why I didn't write down the yards. But he had 23 attempts. He's seeing 3.9% of the targets, which again, like Sony Michel, this is not the role they brought him in for. While Josh Jacobs is out, and while Josh Jacobs is even on the field, these two players are not filling that role that for John Gruden that they want. He doesn't want them catching passes. That is why they went out and paid Kenyon Drake. So the good news for someone like Peyton Barber is in his snap percentage split, he had 57% of the snaps, which was more than Kenyon Drake, who had the other 43%. Now the value in Kenyon Drake is in the pass catching. The value in Peyton Barber is he's going to see all the goal line attempts. He's going to see all the true rushing attempts, more or less. I should have looked up the split between rushing attempts, but I think that Peyton Barber dominated the percentage of attempts. This Raiders team is hot right now. I have no confidence in them. If you follow the channel, you know I have no confidence in them, specifically John Gruden. I love the Raiders as a team. I think they have one of the coolest jerseys in the NFL. I know that's kind of boring because it's just black and white, but the white with the black numbers is so fresh. But this Raiders team really needs to start running the ball efficiently if they want to continue to win games, because I think they're the 30th ranked rushing offense in the NFL. So having someone like Peyton Barber who's going to fill in for Josh Jacobs, I think for at least another week, maybe two, because it's so important, because they're listing Josh Jacobs' injury as an ankle injury. And that actually is semi-true, but they're leaving out the turf toe part. And we know how bad, if you have played fantasy football in the past, you know how bad turf toe can be for your players. Prime example of last season, Antonio Gibson. He was constantly dealing with turf toe. And I truly do not know. As a Josh Jacobs owner, I have no idea when he's coming back. because if it's a turf toe, it's its own thing. But then you're going to compound it with an ankle injury. I don't know when this kid's going to be back, and I don't know when he'll be 100% because I don't know if they're going to. They have a few big games coming up. The Raiders do. I think they play the Broncos in 2 weeks. They're going to need their whole team because I think that this Raiders team can truly fall apart in overnight. I really believe that. But Peyton Barber is a great stream option this week. I think Josh Jacobs will be out for at least another week, possibly 2 more weeks, because like I said, he's dealing with a turf toe that they seem to have stopped talking about without saying he's healed from it. And they're saying he has an ankle injury. Now, some people will say your turf toe kind of is an ankle injury, which is kind of weird, but because it's called a toe, why wouldn't you just call it turf ankle? But again, very fuzzy area, very hazy of when is this kid coming back? When is the whole 9? So I'd pick up Peyton Barber. I think he's a great stash. He's running like he's in his prime again. He ran for over 100 yards in a tud against Miami, who has a good defense. And that's the thing. This Miami team, well, they're supposed to have a good defense. They've been getting 35 dropped on them like it's clockwork at this point. The Bills did it, and now the Raiders even did it. So I don't know what's going on with Miami. But yeah, Peyton Barber, great stash for the week. He's not going to get a lot of passing volume. That's not his role. His role is to be the short distance goal line back and occasionally break one off. So with all that in mind, do what you will with Peyton Barber. I think he's a great stash if you're short on running backs, if you need players to fill in your flex. Go ahead and scoop Peyton Barber because, like I said, Josh Jacobs may be more than a week before he comes back, and he's been out for, I think this is week 2. The next player on this list, and I believe the last running back on this list, is Zach Moss. Zach Moss might be a player you have to trade for. He might be on waivers. I didn't look at the percentages, but this is the appeal with Zach Moss, and this is kind of why everybody's being fooled when it comes to Devin Singletary. Okay? Zach Moss missed the first game of the season, right? He either got hurt in the beginning or he just missed the whole thing. Out. No attempts. Then the second game of the season, they're easing him back. Devin Singletary breaks a 40-yard gash off and scores a touchdown, pulling the wool over the eyes of the sheep even more than we are as people. And then Zach Moss comes back week 3 and is out-snapping Devin Singletary, and he has more attempts than Devin Singletary. And this is the efficiency of Zach Moss. He only had 13 attempts in week 3, but I think he had either 1 touchdown or 2 touchdowns because they're literally only using him on the goal line. He's starting to get used more and more throughout the distance and where their field position is, but the 2 leading. Okay, so let me set the table for this a little bit better. The Bills are the team that run the most 4 wide receiver sets. So they're not using running backs. They're using the tight ends and 4 receivers, right? Excuse me. When they decide to run the ball on the goal line, it is either going to Zach Moss or Josh Allen. Zach Moss has 10% of this team's touchdowns. Now, they're all rushing touchdowns, but still 10%. He's only seeing 4.1% target share. But again, a lot of these players, you're not going to get a premier pass catching back off of waivers this late into the season. I'm sorry, it's not going to happen. So what we're looking for in these players that you're trying to pick up off waivers is efficiency and red zone efficiency. Are they being used in the red zone, or are they filling in a key role for an injured player, i.e. Darrell Henderson and Christian McCaffrey? So Zach Moss is starting to outsnap Devin Singletary all over the field. He's not going to get the passing volume. That's not his role. That is why the Bills have kept Devin Singletary, because he's a complimentary back. However, Zach Moss is going to get all of the goal line work that doesn't go to Josh Allen in terms of the rushing game. So I love Zach Moss for this reason. I think that if he's healthy, he's proving to be a very efficient goal line back, which is what the Bills really need because they can't keep risking Josh Allen's life on the goal line. But Zach Moss is proving to be a very efficient runner because he's not seeing that many attempts. But what he's doing with his red zone attempts specifically is executing. He's being very efficient in the red zone. Again, he's taking his slice out of the opportunity pie, and he's making a lot of booms and a lot of bada bings. So I like Zach Moss. I think Zach Moss is I think he's gonna fill a crucial role for this Bills team throughout the course of the season, not even just for fantasy. I think he's actually gonna be their go-to goal line back, and I think he's going to continue to do a great job with the work he's giving. So long as he stays healthy, there is the injury concern with Zach Moss. That is for real. But so long as he stays healthy, so long as he's continuing to get goal line reps, I do not see in any universe where they give it to Devin Singletary. The only person that will take them is Josh Allen. And I think they're trying to kind of limit that part of the Bills' offense because they need to preserve Josh Allen. You can't, especially in a season where you're supposed to go to the AFC Championship, you can't risk your quarterback as frequently as they do. But now that Zach Moss is healthy, he's going to start to collect a lot of that work. But let's go to the next position group. We're going to talk about my favorite streamable / waiver wire pickup wide receivers. I think that. So let me kind of sip this water, and then I'm going to set the table for this. Okay. I've been having a lot of throat agita since I had COVID. But this is the thing with wide receivers that you gotta understand. Just because Cedric Wilson balled out against the Eagles does not mean he is now the wide receiver one of the Dallas Cowboys. Just because Travis Fulgham in 2020 balled out for like a game and a half did not make him the wide receiver one for the Eagles. He's not even on the team anymore. You need to understand that wide receivers' roles take time to develop. You need to give they need time to have their role in the offense evolve. And basically what happens, the cycle of a wide receiver life, I'm going to use Stephon Diggs. You start as a kick returner. You start as a special teamer, and then you make plays on special teams. You're either balling out, kick returning, and then you get your chance in the offense where you are an off-the-ball receiver, meaning you are running routes to scheme the player that you want to get the ball to open. It's what really good teams do. And then when your quarterback goes through his reads and comes to you, and you start catching the ball and start making plays, then your role expands in the offense. It is all contingent on consistency and sustainability. Because Keyshawn Vaughn is a great example from the running back position who was drafted in the second round, was supposed to have, I think he was drafted in the second round, I could be wrong there, but he was drafted to the Buccaneers, he was supposed to fill the role they needed, but he needed to be better on special teams. He didn't perform on special teams, so they waived him. He's off the team, I'm pretty sure. Or he's just on the practice squad. But this is someone who, coming into the year, was supposed to have a big role in the offense. Bruce Arians, over and over and over again, said, I expect a breakout year for Keyshawn Vaughn. So, for wide receivers, you can't be fooled by the 1 week where they have one catch, like literally Greg Ward, one catch for like 5 yards and a touchdown, and he scored like 12 points. So, don't be fooled. You have to look at situations and you have to look at predicaments that why is this wide receiver, you need to analyze why is this wide receiver scoring points. Because Freddie Swain is a great example too. They'll just keep hammering this point home of, for whatever reason, Russell Wilson flipped his coin of DK Metcalf or Taylor Lockett, and I guess it landed in the middle, and he was like, oh, Freddie Swain this game, and just peppered Freddie Swain for a game, and it made no sense. But first player on this list is Hunter Renfrow. Hunter Renfrow is seeing the third highest snap percentage of Raiders wide receivers. I think he's behind Darren Waller and Henry Ruggs. Those are the only two players he's behind. Or it's Henry Ruggs, Bryan Edwards, Renfrow. I think Edwards is below Renfrow at the moment. But he's seeing 52% of the snaps. His air yards per game are 88. So what that stat means, is going to be a stat we talk about for all these receivers. Your air yards per game is whether you have 2 catches or 3 catches. It's good. The higher the number for the higher amount of attempts, the better. So for someone like Hunter Renfrow, who has 4 or 5 attempts a game, or targets per game, and is seeing 88 air yards, that means they're throwing the ball 88 yards down, like not down the field, but he's accumulating 88 air yards on all of his receptions. So they're throwing it to him deep. And he's seeing 17.1% of the target share. Now, why this is impressive is because the Raiders are the number 1 passing offense in the NFL. So Hunter Renfrow is going to continue to be that deep threat along with Henry Ruggs, and they're going to have Bryan Edwards and Darren Waller eating over the middle. Hunter Renfrow is this team's slot guy. They're sending him deep. They're moving him around, and he's seeing a way more expanded role in the offense. You know, there was that tiff on social media, or squabble, if you will, between Hunter Renfrow and Jalen Ramsey about Hunter Renfrow claiming he routed Jalen Ramsey up. And lo and behold, the clip came out. He did route Jalen Ramsey up. So Hunter Renfrow is a good receiver. If you could route up Jalen Ramsey, you really have a special skill set. So his routes are pretty underrated, in my opinion. But they're using him as a deep threat. And in the number 1 passing offense with literally no rushing attack, these receivers are a dime a dozen because their role is critical and their role is way larger than you would anticipate these other guys. So I like Hunter Renfrow as a waiver wire pickup. He probably got picked up this week in most leagues. If he's still out there, go snag him. But I like Hunter Renfrow a lot. I think he's going to continue to ball out. I think he's averaging like 12 points per game. So, yeah. Next receiver on this list, we have Emmanuel Sanders. So Emmanuel Sanders has been relatively quiet in fantasy through the first 2 weeks and finally popped off week 3. Now, he is seeing the team's second most targets per game behind Stephon Diggs. And in week 3, he actually played more snaps, a higher snap percentage than Stephon Diggs. And he's seeing still, despite not having really any touchdowns until week 3, 17.2% of the target share. That is a good number for a waiver wire ad. These are all great numbers for waiver wire ads, which is why I have them on this list, which is why I'm telling you guys, the people I like and that listen to me and value my opinion. Everybody else is a hater. I'm just kidding. I don't mean any of that. But I do love you guys, and I want you guys to succeed in your fantasy leagues. I like Emmanuel Sanders' pickup. I think that his role in the offense has actually been, when I looked at the numbers, it's been consistent. He's still always flirting with Stephon Diggs for the highest snap percentage of any wide receiver. He's still seeing a ton of air yards per game. And his target share is good. It's a good target share. So Emmanuel Sanders kind of flying under the radar. Definitely didn't get drafted in a few leagues. So in redraft leagues, depending on how deep they are. So I like Sanders a lot. I think that the Bills' offense is. This is the thing too. Like part of the reasons why streamers become streamable, if you will. I don't think I'm using that. I don't think I made that point clear enough. But what I mean is, one of the added values for me, specifically as a fantasy owner, this is a trip into the Mike Frisella mind of how I play fantasy football. There is always added value when the player is on a good team, because that team is good for either one or two reasons. First reason, they are beyond talented. Example, the Arizona Cardinals. Point 2, they are beyond talented, and they have a great head coach. Great head coaches get players open. That is why the Rams go down and score on the first drive almost every single play, because Sean McVay might be the best scripting coach in the entire NFL. bar none. I think that he's easily in the top 5 conversation. I think that this season specifically, we are seeing that there are so few good head coaches in the NFL that I think there's really, off the top of my head, I would say 6. Yeah, I'm just trying to think. I would say about 6. But Emmanuel Sanders is on one of these teams where they are greatly talented. They have a great head coach, and it always helps when you have a top 5 quarterback in Josh Allen. And if anybody says that Josh Allen is not a top 5 quarterback, I will write you a prescription to go to your doctor and just hang out with him for about 30 minutes. Just talk to him, let him pick your brain, because that is ludicrous to say Josh Allen is a top 5 quarterback. Anyways, that's neither here nor there. Let's talk about the next receiver. Next receiver is Tim Patrick. So Tim Patrick is interesting to me because the numbers, in my opinion, because it's the Denver Broncos, are slightly deceiving. What do I mean by that? So people are still trying to figure out, are the Broncos legit or not? And the reason behind all of this is because, they beat the Giants week 1, supposed to be a good defense. It's proving not to be that good of a defense. They beat the Jaguars week 2, which are a disaster. They somehow moved backwards. That's coaching. And they beat the Jets week 3. So they haven't necessarily played anyone. The best team they've played out of that motley crew is the Giants. But here's the thing. Tim Patrick didn't play that. I think he did play that game as the wide receiver 3 because Jerry Jeudy was playing. Jerry Jeudy's out with high ankle sprain. He should be. I think it was only 4 weeks. It looked like he broke his leg completely in half, but it's apparently just high ankle sprain. Tim Patrick is playing 75% of snaps in week 3, and it's been around that since Jeudy went out week 1. He's seeing 46.7 air yards per game, and he's only seeing 13.8% of the targets. But here's the thing, and why I think that these numbers are a little bit deceiving, and why Tim Patrick actually will be a great ad for you, is because, in my opinion, the Broncos are running one of the most efficient offenses in the entire NFL, and they are dominating the time. I think they're ranked first or second in time of possession. So, though they're not, Teddy Bridgewater is not coming, if you go through this list, and we look back on Hunter Renfrow, 88 yards per attempt, air yards per game, and Sanders, who had over 100, those are 2 leading passing offenses. The Broncos are still scoring 20-plus points a game, and they're not one of the leading passing offenses. They're one of the most well-balanced offenses in the NFL, and Teddy Bridgewater doesn't make mistakes, but he doesn't throw the ball that far. So for PPR leagues, Tim Patrick's volume is going to be fine. Also, the Broncos are like death by 1,000 cuts because Teddy Bridgewater just throws it to who's ever open, or they're running the ball with Melvin Gordon or Javonte Williams. So Tim Patrick will be fine. His fantasy points per game are fine. But don't be fooled by these numbers because I think they're a little bit deflated. Or skewed in the wrong direction, if deflated is the wrong word. But I like Tim Patrick. I think the Broncos are legit. I really do. But I think they're legit. But I will say these next 4 weeks are going to really determine how good the Broncos are because they need to go 500 because they're all good teams, except for the Steelers. But I think they play the Broncos. No, they don't play the Raiders this week. They play the Steelers this week. So I like Tim Patrick. I like the Broncos. Their offensive line is great. Their scheme is great. They're efficient as anything. And yeah, I don't think these numbers are definitely the lowest of anybody on this list. But don't be fooled by them because I think it's a special case with Teddy Bridgewater in this Broncos offense. Last player on this list actually came as a surprise to me when I was looking at the numbers. AJ Green. So DeAndre Hopkins is playing 92% of snaps for the Arizona Cardinals. The next closest receiver is AJ Green with 78% of snaps. He's averaging 69.3 yards per game and 18.4% of the targets. Even though AJ Green is old as dirt, he's still putting up at least 10 fantasy points per game. The appeal to AJ Green is this Cardinals team does not run the football. If they run the football, it is through Kyler Murray or Chase Edmonds. And then you sprinkle in James Conner. I hate James Conner. But I think AJ Green is in a high-powered offense, a very heavy passing offense. He's seeing a large, almost 20% of the passing volume is ridiculous. And the touchdowns will come. That's really the thing that's setting AJ Green out. Is he's not seeing enough of the touchdowns yet. And they'll come because for whatever reason, Kyler Murray is, I don't want to say this because it's going to sound so dumb, but he's trending towards not throwing the ball to DeAndre Hopkins anymore, which will not be consistent. So I'm just saying for week 2, week 3, he hasn't been throwing to D-Hop as much as he has in the past. So don't hear what I'm not saying. I feel like I'm going to have to say that a ton as I continue to make these videos. Don't hear what I'm not saying. DeAndre Hopkins is still the one. But AJ Green's volume is more than Christian Kirk, and it's more than Rondale Moore. It's only behind DeAndre Hopkins. So he's slowly asserting himself as the dominant wide receiver too. And in an offense with Kyler Murray, and I'm not going to say coached by Cliff Kingsbury because he sucks. He's the worst head coach in the NFL. Do not sleep on AJ Green. And I think he's on 90% of waivers. Okay, not 90, but he's probably, I would say, at the most 50% owned in sleeper leagues. I'm saying on the sleeper app, he's 50% owned because it tells you that if you don't use sleeper, your league should definitely switch to using sleeper because it has by far the best in-app breakdown of things. And it tells you a bunch of statistics that other apps don't tell you. So if you are the GM, you are the commissioner, do your team, do your boys, do your family, do your mom, do your sister a favor. That pause was intentional. And switch to sleeper for the next season. But that's going to do all the wide receivers. Okay. So we're going to talk about tight ends. And it's fascinating, the tight end position this year, because you have Kyle Pitts, who is, in PPR leagues, I think he has 4 points, 12 points, 5 points, or 2 points through the first 3 games, and is the tight end 13. The tight end position in the 2021 NFL season is so irrelevant that you might as well just pick the best streamer up each week if you don't have Travis Kelce, Darren Waller, or Mark Andrews, or TJ Hawkinson. I'm not going to say George Kittle because he just hasn't been playing well. He hasn't been playing to his normal level. Water break. Stay hydrated, kids. Drink water today. This is your reminder. Go out, drink some water, stay hydrated, get some sunshine, get some vitamin D, fight off coronavirus with vitamin D. Anyway, tight ends, super relevant this season. So if you don't have the 4 I mentioned, I still believe in Kyle Pitts. However, I didn't think that Matt Ryan would be this shitey this year. He's playing horrible. I was at the Giants-Falcons game this past weekend, and there were so many times Calvin Ridley and Kyle Pitts were just open, 20 yards down the field, and he just, for whatever reason, threw it to Cordero Patterson. I don't know if he doesn't trust himself or his arm is really just that shot. So, I just wanted to say that about Kyle Pitts, because if you follow the channel, you know I'm huge on Kyle Pitts. First tight end that I think might have a huge breakout, Tommy Tremble. So let me pull out my little tablecloth and set the table for you. The Panthers are hot right now, 3-0, coming off few pretty big wins. They beat the Jets, not a big win. They beat the Saints, big win. They beat the Texans, whatever. Christian McCaffrey, the centerpiece of their offense, is hurt. He has a hamstring injury. He will miss at least 2 weeks. They haven't put him on IR yet, but reports are saying 2 weeks for McCaffrey. They just traded Dan Arnold to the Jaguars. I don't remember if Tommy Tremble was drafted in the 3rd or 2nd round, but he was coming out of Notre Dame. Notre Dame was a great team in 2020 for college football. The other thing is Tommy Tremble, and I've said if you have followed the podcast, the regular Pylon Cam podcast where we do NFL coverage, how you get playing time as a tight end is by being first and foremost an exceptional blocker. Tommy Tremble has been an exceptional blocker this entire time. That is the reason they drafted him, because he's a fantastic blocking tight end. Matt Rule said, I could turn this kid into a pass catcher, and drafted him, which was very intelligent. That's why Matt Rule is slowly emerging as one of the best head coaches in the NFL. He's not there yet, but he's getting there. This Panthers team now needs to figure out how to score without Christian McCaffrey. And if you watch the Texans game, how they use Tommy Tremble creatively. Because again, this is a kid that was just getting pass blocking reps. So to see him start to be used on jet sweeps, in motion, direct handoffs. I think he had 1 target for 30 yards. So they're using him down and I think it was 25 air yards, so it was 5 yards after the catch, but they are throwing it to him down the field. This kid might be, in this system, one of the best tight ends to emerge in the fantasy universe for 2021. This kid, if you are in redraft leagues, just grab him and see what happens this week. Because worst case scenario, you drop someone, there's definitely someone on your bench you're already thinking about dropping. Think about Tommy Tremble, especially if you need help at tight end, which odds are you probably do, because your tight end is either putting up 10 points or 0.7 because they just don't get any work for whatever reason. So, for those reasons, I picked up Tommy Tremble. I think Tommy Tremble has a boatload of potential and is super under the radar, unless it's Dynasty. If it's in Dynasty leagues, he's gone. But if you do have in Dynasty teams, it might be time to call him up off your taxi squad and give him a rip, especially if you're struggling at tight end. And seeing that Kyle Pitts has a total of 20 points and he's a tight end 13, you probably need help at tight end. Anyway, let's go to the next guy. Mike Gesicki. So, Mike Gesicki is a player that I love personally. I think that he has one of the best hands for a tight end in the NFL. He's constantly making spectacular catches. He's constantly bailing Tua out. He's playing 67% of the snaps, which is relatively normal for tight end, because you have your pass catching tight end, you have your run blocking tight end, you have your pass blocking tight end. You got tight ends to be tight end, to be the tight end's tight end. You got your tight end to walk your dog. You got your tight end to do whatever you want. Mike Gesicki is unquestionably the dominant pass catching tight end for the Miami Dolphins, who are desperately struggling on offense. Here's the thing why I think Mike Gesicki is either a buy low candidate or you definitely probably can't get him off waivers. So I'm not too sure why I put him in a streaming video. However, this is an added bonus to the buy low part. We're just going to shuffle the positions of this video around. Added bonus. First entry at the new and approved 2021 September 29th buy low list for week 3 or going into week 4. Mike Gesicki. Mike Gesicki is seeing 67% of snaps. He's He's seeing 57.3 air yards per game, and he's seeing 17.3% of the targets. This is the same volume that a lot of these receivers that are streaming right now are seeing. And here's the kicker. No pun intended. With Tua, he had 3 targets. In the past 2 games with Jacoby Brissett playing, he saw 18 targets. And Tua is not coming back anytime soon. I think he's actually on IR. I don't know if they put him on IR, but he definitely has multiple broken ribs. Is pretty banged up. So, and hey, with Brissett, this offense put up its highest points of the season. So, and added bonus to Mike Gesicki and anybody on the Miami Dolphins offense, the Miami owner is like obsessed with Deshaun Watson. So I think if Deshaun Watson gets traded, it is to the Miami Dolphins, which makes everybody better because it completely changes the dynamic of the offense. It completely changes how this offense operates. So for those reasons, oh, my back. Just sat on a plane. It's charred. For those reasons, Mike Gesicki, hot topic, hot player to add. He could sneak into the top 10 tight end conversation if Gesicki, if Brissett still's playing and his volume stays the same. Next tight end. So this is someone I've gone back and forth on. Tyler Conklin. He's playing 71% of snaps, which is really high for a tight end. Or not really high, but it's pretty high. He's seeing 22 air yards per game, and he's only seeing 13.7% of the targets. So I know this off the top of my head. In terms of targets, he's gone 4-4-8. And when he gets 8 targets, he puts up 20 points. So maybe Kirk Cousins is going to start throwing to him more. However, like I said, the tight end position this season in 2021 is extremely volatile. It's extremely volatile, if you want me to say it that way. Probably, if you wanted me to say it that, if you're sitting there and said, oh, volatile, and we're like happy when I said volatile, you're probably someone who gets mad when someone says data instead of data. So, go kick rocks. Anyway, Tyler Conklin, great ad. There was a lot of hype on him coming into the season. I don't know really if this is going to be sustainable. However, if we're just streaming this kid, plug and play, see what happens. Let me check who the Vikings play, because I did not look that up, and I forget. Hold up. They play the Browns next week. Kind of like that matchup. Kind of don't like that matchup. But they play the Lions and the Panthers the week after that. I like the Lions matchup. I don't like the Panthers matchup. Here's why. Browns and Panthers have really phenomenal linebackers who typically pick up tight end coverage. And Jeremiah Owusu-Koramoah, who somehow, by the grace of God, fell to 55th in the draft, will be picking up Tyler Conklin, and I would put my money on JOK over Conklin. Anyway, that will do it for tight ends. We are going to run through these quarterbacks that I think you should stream for this week, and then I'm going to bless you with a few more nuggets of my God-given knowledge of who I would buy low this week. Because you buy them low, you flip them high after 1 week where they pop off. That's the game. Scared money don't make money. Let's talk about these quarterbacks. Sam Darnold. I mean, if you follow the channel, you know that I have been preaching Sam Darnold will be good on the Carolina Panthers. And here we are. 3-0. 300 passing yards per game. Nearly 70% completion percentage. Baller. And here's the thing that I have been preaching, and this is the last part of my Sam Darnold prophecy that we are about to see come to fruition. Sam Darnold, his athleticism is criminally underrated. It is criminally underrated. Go back and watch Broncos versus Jets 2020, the Sam Darnold run. That's all you need to see. He hits him with the little hezzy, and he's gone. Breaking ankles out there, Sammy D. So I think that the Panthers are in a position where they need to find ways to win without McCaffrey. I think we're about to see the RPO come alive, or just a few more design runs for Darnold. We saw a QB sneak. We saw him punch one in. And they have insanely favorable matchups. I actually did look this up, but I forgot who they were. So let me go back here. But let me see. Panthers schedule 2021. They play. Here we go. Okay, this is why I think they have a great schedule coming up. They play the Cowboys, which will be a shootout. I think that the Cowboys defense, Dan Quinn, might be one of the best defensive coordinators in the NFL. That has been proven. Micah Parsons is a freak of nature. But Sam Darnold will inevitably be passing the ball more. The thing that I'm kind of worried about for that game, I think it's going to be a really tough game for DJ Moore and Chuba Hubbard. So that game will be like, so this week we're going to see Tommy Tremble, what he's made of. But I don't know, because I just made the point about the linebackers. But Micah Parsons, the Cowboys, brilliantly, credit to Dan Quinn, have been lining Parsons off the edge for a large percentage of snaps, and he's grading as one of the best edge rushers in the league. Not as the rookie edge rusher, in the league. So, curious to see what they do with him. I don't think they're expecting Tremble. They might be. I'm not, like, Tremble's not a game breaker. I'm excited about him, but he's not going to be like an earth shatterer. And I think that Terrace Marshall might have a good game that week in Robbie Anderson. Because I think that Tre'Davious White, not Tre'Davious White. If I said Tre'Davious White the first time, I mean Trayvon Diggs. Trayvon Diggs lines up with DJ Moore, who's slowly emerging as, I mean, both of them are emerging as Pro Bowlers for this year. But Trayvon Diggs looks nuts. And if you watch the Eagles game, good D-backs know what's coming. That's why prime Richard Sherman was so good. That's why, like, there are the physical D-backs, there are the fast D-backs, and then there are the smart D-backs, and rarely there are all three. Trayvon Diggs is one of them. So, if you watch the Eagles game, the Eagles' whole offense is dink and dump because they needed to tailor it to Jalen Hurts to help his completion percentage because he struggles completing his passes. Trayvon Diggs didn't bite on a single route that game. That is why he had a pick six. So I think that the Panthers offense is way more dynamic than the Eagles offense. That's not what I'm saying. But I think in a physicality matchup, it might be a little tougher for DJ Moore than people might give it credit. So, still think Sam Darnold's going to throw for 300 yards. I think he's going to ball out that game. Jalen Hurts just had 300 yards. So, I like Darnold in this game. I think that he's going to have a great week. He has a great stretch against the Eagles, the Vikings, and the Giants. So, pick up Sam Darnold. Why aren't you changing the screen? Okay. Next player, Kirk Cousins. So, despite Kirk Cousins and the Vikings being 1-2, Kirk Cousins is balling like he does in fantasy football. He doesn't win games, and if you follow the channel, you know I say this all the time. Kirk, you're not that guy, pal. He puts up numbers, but he doesn't win games. It's like clockwork for this dude. It is clockwork. So, the Vikings offense is still like top 10 in every category. Passing, rushing, points scored, everything. Time of possession. And they have great matchups over the next 4 weeks. I think 3 of their matchups are favorable. They have one of the best graded passing offenses in the NFL. I think the last time I checked, it was ranked, excuse me, it was ranked 9th. But let's see here. They play the Browns, Lions, Vikings, Cowboys next week. And the one game that I'm actually saying they have 3 out of the 4 best games next week, 3 out of 4 good games next week is because I think the Browns, I think the Vikings will actually win that game, but I think the Browns are going to just dominate time of possession because I do that every week. Let's talk about the next player. Derek Carr. So Derek Carr, for whatever reason, is still not picked up off waivers. He's averaging 28.5 points, fantasy points, in PPR leagues per game. He has the number one rank. He's behind the number 1 ranked passing offense, and he should continue to be a viable streamer. I think that this Raiders team is going to kind of deteriorate as the season progresses, not from injury, because of John Gruden. I believe it with my heart of hearts. And I think that no matter what, because they cannot run the ball and they are the 30th ranked rushing offense, Derek Carr will forever be viable. And you're seeing the emergence of Henry Ruggs is coming into his home. Darren Waller's still a monster. Bryan Edwards is a beast. Hunter Renfrow is still that guy that they're sending down the field and out of the slot. So I think Derek Carr is going to continue to be good. I think but his points will probably dip a little bit, as in probably settle around 24 to the 20 range. But that's still good for, like, I'd consider a good week for my quarterback 20 points. I think that's kind of expected. I could be a little bit crazy there, which is why I typically struggle at the quarterback position, but not this year. So I like Derek Carr, and I think he's going to continue to ball out. Last player on this list, Teddy Bridgewater. Such a weird last name. It's definitely English. Bridgewater. Anyway, Teddy Bridgewater is averaging 20.6 PPR fantasy points per game, like we talked about beforehand with Tim Patrick. The Broncos are one of the most efficient offenses in the NFL in almost every metric. Just trying to think if there's anything I'm missing. They have a tough schedule over the next 4 weeks, which is why I left Teddy for last, because I do believe the Broncos are legit. However, tough games are tough games. Tough games really devastate fantasy points sometimes. I'd say more often than not, unless it's like Derrick Henry or someone like that. But if you need a quarterback, I would take Teddy B. He looks great. He's not making mistakes. You don't have to worry about turnovers. Their offense is just slow paced. It's very slow. If you watch them in any game, they just move. They take their time. It is literally death by a million cuts. It is so slow. The added value in that, and how slow it is, it really favors PPR formats because they're throwing the ball such a short distance that their receivers are just getting so many more targets and so much more potential to score, like to just get points off of catches, that it's one of like the underlooked or overlooked aspect of the Broncos team. Anyway, that will do it for the streamable quarterbacks. Let's talk about trade targets. So these are pretty much all players that I think you could buy low and potentially flip high, because I think that some of them will regress back to being bad, potentially. But yeah, so let's look at them. These are players you should buy. We're going to talk about Mike Gesicki. Should have been on this list, not in the streamer list. But anyway, I am not perfect. I'm just a Mike. So get off my back. Saquon Barkley. So, my boy Saquon. This is the thing with Saquon Barkley. I have been watching a ton of tape on like all of these teams because I'm trying to make my brain bigger and less smooth, to do better on Twitter and get better with my takes when it comes to the league and when it comes to Instagram posts and fantasy. But this is my concern with Saquon, and I'm going to tell you why it doesn't matter that much. So, the Giants are the worst offense in the NFL. Bar none. You cannot convince me otherwise. Jason Garrett should be fired. He's horrible. He's stunting the growth of the Giants quarterback. He doesn't know how to use Saquon Barkley. He doesn't believe Kadarius Toney can run NFL-level routes when all they run is curls, slants, verticals, and stick routes. So why Kadarius Toney, who went to a D1 school, almost went to the national championship, and is now a first-round draft pick, can't run one of those 4 routes? I think that's a Jason Garrett thing. Anyway, I digress. Darius Slayton is out. Sterling Shepard is out. Evan Engram might get traded by, next week. Because, like I said, I was at the game. The fans literally booed him off. They booed for Evan Engram when he came on the field, and they booed him they cheered for him when he ran off the field. Giants fans, I think, are at their wits' end and their breaking point. Anyway, Saquon did pick up a large portion of the passing volume in those players' absence. We saw it on screens, dump-offs, Daniel Jones hitting his checkdowns. But here's my concern with Saquon. Now, when I watched the O-line report for the New York Giants, just to kind of understand This is my thought process of why I'm watching the Giants O-line report and why I watch, the 49ers O-line report is, okay, I see what what the best team does and what the worst team does. And based off of that, you know what people should be doing. And in the Giants' defense, Giants O-line defense, because it's one of the most injured in the league, they are creating big holes. And I've said this in a previous podcast episode, that the Giants' O-line, despite sucking in pass protection, graded out as one of the best run-blocking offensive lines. Saquon Barkley continues, and this is why his yards per carry are so low, continues to see a hole with one dude standing on, it's like if Moses parted the Red Sea, and then there's a little guy from SpongeBob who was yelling, "Hoopla!" standing on the other side of the hole, and Saquon Barkley has 30 pounds on him, and cuts away from him into traffic. And it's like, dog, just run like Zeke, hit the guy and fall forward, and watch what happens to your yards per carry miraculously. It's not that complicated. Anyway, Saquon finally broke 20 points. They get 21 points in PPR leagues. He had a touchdown finally. And the kid's healed. If you watch that touchdown, he literally jumped from the 4-yard line over an entire offense and defensive line. So, I don't know why he's running like a little girl, but I digress. Jonathan Taylor. So, Quentin Nelson got hurt, and the Colts offense stinks. However, the only consistency in this offense is Jonathan Taylor. And the reason why I would buy him low is because he's not scoring touchdowns. That will change. He still gets the goal line work. He's still the bell cow. His snap percentage is low, seemingly, but that is the trajectory of the running back position in the NFL for the years to come. So it's not really that low. He's still averaging 60% of this 60%, dear God, of the snap percentage. And he still that guy. So I think this Colts O-line is going to be fine. Losing Quentin Nelson is a huge hit, but the Colts learned their lesson from destroying Andrew Luck, and we need a good offensive line all the time because we literally ruined one of the best potential quarterbacks ever. I'd buy Jonathan Taylor low. Another player, Allen Robinson. Allen Robinson, poor guy, man. He puts up 1,000 yards with terrible quarterback play every year. And now we're seeing he's actually probably in the second worst offensive, schematically the second worst offense in the NFL. So Allen Robinson is the wide receiver 45 right now, or something ridiculous. That will change. I don't know when it will change, but it will. It'll either change with Andy Dalton or with Justin Fields. You can't really blame Justin Fields because it was his first start and he got annihilated. And the scheme sucks. So I'm not going to blame it too much on Justin Fields. But I would buy Allen Robinson because you could probably get him for a penny. Keenan Allen is another person I think you could buy low, depending on who owns him. But here's the thing. He's only a buy low candidate because the touchdowns are going to Mike Williams. He's still seeing the other lion's share of the targets. Mike Williams is seeing the lion's share. Keenan Allen is seeing the Simba share, essentially. So if he's on a person's team where they're just frustrated with him because he's not scoring touchdowns, you might be able to get him on a bargain. It will change 100%. Justin Herbert loves throwing the ball to Keenan Allen, especially in crunch time. So Keenan Allen in close games, definitely a start for me. But yeah, let's talk about Julio. Julio Jones, another person you could definitely buy low because he hasn't really done squat, particularly because Ryan Tannehill has sucked the first 2 weeks. He has probably leading the team. He's probably top 5 or top 10 in the league right now in turnovers. He's fumbled so many times and he's thrown multiple picks. However, that's neither here nor there. He'll be fine. He'll rebound. People have bad games. People get in the slumps. A.J. Brown is week to week. So we don't know when A.J. Brown's coming back. Julio Jones is now the clear-cut wide receiver 1, and we'll be seeing pretty much all of the targets and definitely all of the red zone targets. However, the only thing that would stop Julio from breaking out is Derrick Henry, which they have relied on heavily the past few weeks. So for those reasons, I'm buying Julio. You can still get him cheap because I just traded. Leave your thoughts on this trade in the comment section. I just traded Damian Harris and Allen Robinson for. Who did I get? Hold on, because now I don't remember what I did. Oh, David Montgomery and Julio, and I mean I could put David Montgomery on this list too, but put the entire Bears offense on this list. But I think Julio's going to be better faster than Allen Robinson will be. So I guess I should have put him. By the way, these people on this list are in no particular order. It's just as I thought of them. But Julio will be better before Allen Robinson will be, in my opinion, because of the Justin Fields. Like, he's still a rookie. You got to give him time. And last but not least, player who's on every list I seem to make, Javonte Williams. This kid is a stud. He's one of the most efficient running backs in the NFL. Every week his snap percentage and his carry count is getting higher. He will phase Melvin Gordon out of the offense. The longer you wait to buy Javonte Williams, the worse off you are, because he is getting better every week and his workload and his role is expanding every week. Please go out and buy Javonte Williams. I want to put someone as like an honorable mention, but it's definitely not a buy low person. I think you could argue. I would argue they should be bought low, but nobody would sell them for the price that I would be looking for. And that's Najee Harris, because Najee Harris has not had a good running game. His fantasy season has been saved by the Week 3 performance where he had 19 targets because Chase Claypool was out, Deontay Johnson was out, and Juju Smith-Schuster went out during the game. And it was him and Pat Freiermuth. So, who else are they going to throw to? But the Steelers actually grade out as the 32nd ranked rushing offense with 50 yards per carry, or 50 yards per game. So, I think that Najee should be sold on a bargain. Anyway, that's going to do it for this podcast episode. Thanks for hanging out with me. Again, follow us on @the Pylon, or @the_Pylon_Cam on Instagram. Follow us on Twitter @Pylon_the. Check out if you're listening on Spotify and you want to hear my beautiful voice forever and ever. Follow me on Spotify. And then if you're on YouTube, like, comment, subscribe. If you didn't like what you heard, dislike, comment, subscribe. Because I'll get better. I'll change it just for you, my beautiful little listener. But that's going to do it for me. We have a lot of content coming out today because I flew back to New Jersey, and then have been super behind because I didn't have my stuff. So, start, sit, sell coming out this week. Power rankings coming out today. Another video coming out today, I think. I forgot the name of it. Oh, Pick'ems. Pick'ems will be tomorrow. And podcast tomorrow for NFL coverage. See you there. Peace!